Information-fueled.
Opinion-driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
8:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Hope you're doing well. And welcome on into your Tuesday, February 4th. Want to welcome on into the program. Really excited about this. Tyler Summitt is joining us. And Tyler, for folks that don't know, Pat Summitt, your mom, was that legendary women's basketball coach at UT for the Lady Vols. Just an incredible career, and it's great to have you on Nashville's Morning News. And we've been talking about the possibility of the WNBA coming to the state of Tennessee. And there's a lot of big names that are behind this, apparently. Tim McGraw is one. Former Governor Haslam is another. I've heard Peyton Manning, but I can't seem to confirm that. Maybe you can. And Tyler, apparently you are also part of this move to bring the WNBA to Tennessee. How did your involvement come about?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And Governor Haslam honestly reached out and just called me, asked if I'd be okay with, naming the team after my mom. And also, we talked about a potential investment. And so that's when I knew it was real. I'll be honest. It's a year ago, 2 years ago, various people reached out. I thought they were just rumors. But once Governor Haslam called me, I knew it was real.
Do you think that there is a want for the WNBA in Nashville and Tennessee? There has been, and I'm a talk show host, so I'm a cynic on pretty much everything. But I do know that the WNBA, they've had some challenges with attendance. They've had some challenges with television ratings as well. They did have a great 2024. I think that was part of the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese story arc or storyline there. But I mean, do you think that Nashville is ready to support a team from the WNBA?
I do, and I think for multiple reasons. The first thing is, let's remember, and they even named it pretty aptly, right? It's not the Nashville Summit, it's the Tennessee Summit. I think it's their intention to play all across the state. And being from the women's basketball world, if there was a women's basketball state, people in that world would just point at Tennessee, in some part because of what Mom did. But, this team could play in Knoxville, Memphis, Clarksville, all over. And so I think, looking at it that way, the second thing to know, I'm sure a lot of listeners may not know, there's only one other team in the Southeast, the Atlanta Dream. And so this would be the second team in the Southeast. So we're not just looking at Nashville or the state of Tennessee. We're looking at a region that potentially would get behind this team. But with Nashville specifically, I think it's a great place to start something. Everything I know about Nashville, people get behind things. It's pretty cool what the city does and just the whole culture behind getting behind something. There's a reason why we put the Pat Summitt leadership group, the business, in Nashville. That's actually who told me that y'all were talking about it yesterday. Christina Record with the Pat Summitt leadership group said, hey, they're talking about this. And I think there could be some really good potential partnerships between Nashville businesses and this WNBA team. The crossover between sports and business, that's why my mom went and spoke to so many organizations. It's a really cool tie-in. And so, I think there's some cool things the Tennessee Summit, WNBA team, and the Pat Summitt leadership could do, just between businesses. Again, the Pat Summitt leadership group, they've done keynotes for Coca-Cola, online programs for Dollywood, national events for Bank of America, you name it. Working on leadership development and businesses. So I think this WNBA team, there could be some good partnerships there. And then, if anybody's skeptical, there's teams of people running numbers on this. Not just Bill Haslam's people, but there's other cities that want this. Detroit, Philly, Houston, Cleveland, Milwaukee. Nashville, we may not get it. It's very competitive.
And Tyler, Tyler, and I appreciate you bringing that up. We talked about that yesterday. I do find it interesting, and maybe you can help me understand. So we do have, these are facts that there were problems with, ratings and revenue and these things. And so I find it interesting that the WNBA is in demand. And you're absolutely right. All these other teams and all these other cities, I should say, want this this team, this expansion. And so maybe you can help me understand, are they investing so that there's a lot of potential there and they're hoping that it catches on more than it already has?
I think when you look at our world, think about how much it changes and how fast it changes. And so think about the NIL and the transfer portal, and think about how much now people know individual players. It used to be the team. It used to be the Lady Vols and maybe Pat Summitt. It used to be the coach. Now you know individual players. Now you know Caitlin Clark. Now you know Angel Reese. Why is that? Social media, NIL, partnerships with businesses, things like that. I think that, yes, I think the timing is right. I think these business minds are seeing, okay, this is real. Our world is changing right now. Women's sports is ready for this. And I think it's a great investment opportunity. I mean, we're talking about over $100 million, right? That somebody's going to invest. This isn't like $1 million somebody's throwing at this. We're probably talking double $100 million. We're talking about $200 million investment. There is a business case for this. And again, I've seen the numbers. I've heard people talking about it, and I just think it's because of how college sports has changed, women's sports has changed. So yes, I think that is the reason.
Do you think? And one of my frustrations with the WNBA, I don't think that they have supported Caitlin Clark the way that they could have. I don't think that, I mentioned yesterday she was sitting up there with Taylor Swift watching the Chiefs game a couple of last weekend with the playoff game. And there really wasn't much of a mention of it from the WNBA. And it is just astonishing to me that they're not embracing their stars or their biggest star, Caitlin Clark, the way that I believe that they should. And I think that's part of the problem with the WNBA. How can they take better advantage of a star like a Caitlin Clark when really, I would say, and perhaps I'm wrong, but the TV ratings, the skyrocketing TV ratings and the social media engagement, the sellout games, a lot of that is tied back to Caitlin Clark.
Oh, it absolutely is. And I think, listen, we're all trying to get better. I mean, if we're being honest, every organization can get better. The NBA can get better. The NFL can get better. The WNBA can get better. Everybody can improve. And I think this, again, it's a new environment where the focus is very much on the players. It's not as much the coach. It's not as much team. It's very much on the players. And so I think there's a way to learn. And you got to think about the players. We're talking about women's basketball. I mean, in the Olympics, go look, the last 7 or 8 medals straight, gold medals, have come to the United States. These are not just Caitlin Clark. These are the best in the world at what they do. And that team on the court in Nashville will be some of the best in the world, whether Caitlin Clark or whoever's on it. And so I think, I think there's always a chance to better promote the players, better promote the game. That's something my mom always tried to do, was help women, help young girls, help young ladies, help women, anybody to improve. And I think we can always improve at that.
I love the fact that they went to name it after your mom, Pat Summitt. I love that. The Tennessee Summit has a great ring. It has a connection to the great state of Tennessee. And when you talk about the $200 million investment, is that coming from corporations? Is that coming from the people that we're talking about, just groups of investors? I mean, they're going to play, if we get the team, they're going to play at Bridgestone Arena. So how does that all work?
Well, it obviously starts with Governor Haslam. He has experience in that area, his brother. I mean, there's a lot of people that have experience in that area. But then I think when you look at the other big names, yes, it will come from them. I think I'll be blessed and honored to be able to be a part of it. And so I think it'll be a group of very strong people, some, coming more, as influence and consultant capacity, and then others bringing most of the money. And so, yes, I think it'll come from that group.
One of the things I think would be really cool is that, because we all know, Lady Vols, UT, got a great team out there, is that if the Tennessee Summit, if that does come to fruition, that they would try to recruit some of those players from the Lady Vols, because, that gives you another connection. But I know that that's something, the draft and all those kinds of things. But I just think that given the fact that we are tying, if this comes to fruition, the Tennessee Summit to the UT Lady Vols and your mom, I think we've got a great proving ground right there at UT to pick up some of those players.
Oh, absolutely. And then again, when it's about the players, you're going to have people driving from Knoxville to come to Nashville to watch. I mean, the tables have turned a little bit. I can't tell you how many stories I've been told of people in Nashville that say, oh, I drove every 2.5 hours to every single Lady Vol home game. I'd get my season ticket seat, and then I'd get back at midnight or 1 a.m. and go to work the next day. I mean, people would drive all the time to go watch my mom's team play. And now I think you're going to get people from Knoxville and then obviously closer areas, Clarksville, wherever, driving to come watch the Tennessee Summit team play. And so that's why I mentioned in the beginning, this team, I think it'll be for the state. I think it'll be for the region. It could potentially have a really great following. And, I think Tennessee, we've seen change in women's basketball before. My mom, if you took a poll back when my mom was first coaching at Tennessee, people would have been against their girls in high school and middle school playing full court basketball. So basketball was actually, for women, it was 3-on-3. It was half court. It was not full court, and people believed that women and girls could not handle a full court game. They thought their bodies could literally physically not handle a full court game. My mom had to go from high school to high school and petition and get into politics and say, hey, I'm telling you, my college players do it. I want to recruit your daughters in the state of Tennessee. You have to change to a 5-on-5 game. Eventually that happened, but there was so much resistance to it. And so if there's any resistance to this WNBA team, I smile. It's nothing my mom hasn't been through before. It's nothing the sport hasn't been through before. And I think we'll look back and say, that's why we did this. That makes sense.
Yes, that same kind of tenacity perhaps will mean that we get the WNBA team. So when you talk about all these other cities that we're competing with, what's that presentation like? Who's making the presentation? And how do we look on paper compared to Philadelphia, or I think you said Philadelphia, Detroit, some of these other cities?
The interesting thing will be a lot of these other cities do have NBA teams. And so there's the case for a WNBA standalone team and then a WNBA team with the NBA team. I've not seen the data and the numbers on that. I mean, obviously it makes sense. You have a front office, you have an organization there ready to support an NBA team, and then you can cross over with marketing, social media, things like that, and a ticket office for the WNBA team. So I get there's a case, but there's also a case if there's an NBA season and you're going to every game and then here comes the summer and it's WNBA, are you going to go to basketball year round? Maybe not. Maybe you're ready for another sport. So I think Nashville is just a great spot. You got the fall, the winter, the spring, where if you want to go to college, basketball games, great. But then to have the WNBA come, I think it'd be a really good change up and something for people to go to and get behind.
Well, I will say that Nashville is a great city, and whether or not there's a want for this, I mean, your enthusiasm, I believe, is infectious on this, and so I think that you're a great spokesperson to bring the Tennessee Summit to Nashville. And you're right. I mean, there have been all kinds of instances where there really hasn't been a thirst for something, and then it turned out to be, really successful. I don't know. I wasn't here when the Titans came here, but I'm sure that there were naysayers when the Titans moved from Houston. So we'll have to see what happens. But Tyler, thank you very much for this. Good luck to you, and we'll see if this ultimately plays out. What's the timeline? Real quick, I've only got like 30 seconds. What's the timeline here?
Yeah. No, we're talking about 6 months on average until we learn, and so okay. I would say it's around then, but don't have a crystal ball on that. All right.
Good luck, man. I appreciate you coming on with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. That's Tyler Summitt, Pat Summitt Son, coach from the UT Lady Vols, and an amazing Tennessee institution, Pat Summitt. I don't know. You know what? I mean, he talks a good game. I thought he did a great job, Joan, KGB. I thought that he did a great job of selling it.
I agree that he is the perfect pitch person, salesperson, whatever you want to call it, because he's his enthusiasm is infectious. He's terrific.
Yeah. And, Can I just say this? He's right. If they can get like a Caitlin Clark kind of a person for the Tennessee Summit, you get some good players, you market those players, then I believe that, yeah, there would be an interest in the Tennessee Summit. If they're winning and you got some marketable players, maybe that would work. I don't know. But you know what?
It's not enough for somebody like me to care. Still.
People don't invest $200 million if they don't think that it's going to be a success.
True. Yep.
So, and here's the deal, and I told them right up front, I'm very cynical on this. And I remain cynical, but I also love anything that shines a brighter spotlight on Nashville because I love Nashville. And I think that Nashville is such a great city. And so if this helps us, okay. I'd still rather have a baseball team. But you know what? Other than that, I think that we'll, good luck to them. And we've already got Bridgestone, so it's not like we're going to be building another arena.
Right.
So there is that as well. So, you know what I'd be curious about? If Super Text line is open at 615-737-9986. Did that interview change your mind? You think that changed the mind of anybody, KGB?
I'm curious to find out. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to find out too.
Because he did. You're right. He had a great pitch.
I will say this, and I'm not like mushy or anything on this stuff or squishy on this stuff, but I will say that I'm less cynical now than I was. I will say that because he said there's going to be a focus on the players. And say what you will about that rhino Bill Haslam, right? I mean, I will say this, that they got some money behind this. And if you got money behind it, that means that you can afford some good players and some good marketing. So we'll see what happens. And I love the name, the possibility of the name Tennessee Summit. 8:22 on Nashville's Morning News. So Super Text line, you've heard the interview now. Are you at least less cynical on the Tennessee Summit than you were before? 8:23 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here. Make 2025 the year that you get active again. If you've been sidelined with chronic back, neck, and knee pain, check out my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville and Dr. Kevin Mitchell. Now, I've been a client for over 10 years. I've never felt better. I arrived in Tennessee over a decade ago, and I went through spinal decompression therapy for my chronic back pain, and it really did help a lot. Every once in a while, I need an adjustment. Dr. Mitch fixes me right up, and right now, a great deal. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is offering the Big 47 offer in honor of our 47th president, Donald Trump. This is the 47% off of spinal decompression. They utilize the latest high-tech equipment in their state-of-the-art facility to provide effective, non-surgical solutions. So call them today. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 615-246-5009. 615-246-5009. Find them online. Painisbad.com.